Listen to that noise, you can hear the men coming out. The Montfort University men's first team are running out onto the field of play. And listen to that reception from the DMU fans. They're spattered around this stand, but they're giving it as loud as they can get to welcome their men onto this hallowed turf of Welford Road. What are they saying in that huddle that they're in now on that far side?
I don't know, I feel... I tell you what, we come here to Welford Road a lot, often with a capacity crowd of 24,000, but the noise they make pales in comparison to the noise of this crowd. What an atmosphere. But I think, going back to your question, I feel like they'll be telling them to focus, just remember your training, think about the routines they were doing just before they went into the changing rooms. I think we'll be seeing some good passing. It looked really impressive early on before they returned. So I think if they keep their heads focused on that and then execute it, then I feel like they're in with a very good shot at winning this game.
As you've just heard, the University of Leicester men are out there in red and white striped tops and white shorts. As you can hear the crowd getting their chants going, and the Montfort University men are in black shorts and black and red striped tops as the cheerleaders make their way off the field, and they'll be back during half time if the surface allows. So we're just a few minutes away from kickoff. Atmosphere is building, the intensity is building here at Welford Road. We've given your predictions, but what are you going to make? What are we making of this game? Is it going to be scrappy? Is it going to be tight, tactical? It's a one-off game, isn't it, Lewis?
Well, let's go for an exact score between the three of us, shall we? I'm going to go for 17-13 to DMU.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm thinking 2016. Same gap.
I'm going to go 15-10. I think it's going to be a tight and tactical affair. I think this big pitch will wear the guys out. Fitness will be key, I think.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for that, Amit. We'll be hearing from Amit throughout the first half to get his opinion on what's been going on. But as we get ready now for kickoff, we've got the white and red stripes of University of Leicester kicking off towards our right now, and the Montfort pack takes it well. It's comfortable first take as they drop the ball now. They're passing it throughout, and what a break to start the game with. They take it out their own 22-metre line, crashing into possession, winning the ruck, and bundling it through their forwards. Number 3, Joe Woods, taking the ball into possession there as the scrum half passes it out. And yet another missed tackle by the University of Leicester as they keep spinning the ball out. They've managed to get it beyond their own 10-metre line. They don't need to kick it out now. They're just looking to build up possession and get the running game going after a couple of early runs. Number 9, Ben Mons is the scrum half for DMU today. He'll be looking to grab the ball out the back of that ruck and start getting a backs move going now for DMU. We're yet to see them feature as they just keep piling over the possession, just phases of play, just yard after yard, as they offload the ball into their number 8, who's standing out in the back line, Ian Buckenya. Now they spin out into the back line and we get a chance to see what they've got. And immediately we see, he knocks it on, but immediately we see what potential we have of fast counterplay there by DMU. But the University of Leicester managed to recoup the ball. They run it back at them, but the Montfort men's drag it straight back out into play, and immediately there's some afters going on there. So
the blood is boiling.
Typical of a Varsity game. The blood's boiling over. Both teams are getting a bit violent with each other, and you could argue it's the way he pulled him out there. He dragged him out by his collar off the pitch there.
Yeah, you want to set a marker for what sort of game this will be. That's pretty much as good a way as you can do it. You know, what a start to that game. Running from deep, taking it on a really physical way, and some of those tackles absolutely bruising. I wouldn't want to be in their position.
Yeah, and I was about to say, what a start by DMU as well. They had the line out inside their opponent's half, but University of Leicester have gone against the grain and won their opponent's line out, and now they have a chance to actually start getting some possession on the board, start gaining some territory, but immediately they're mobbed by this DMU forwards pack. And number 2, Simon Gray, the hooker for DMU, recoup possession there, and now the number 8, Ian Buckenya, has a chance to charge forward, getting close to the University of Leicester 22. It certainly feels as if the crowd may be a bit dominated tonight by Leicester fans, but it certainly feels like DMU have got the momentum on the pitch, and immediately they've got a penalty now to start the game with. you think they'll go for the 3 points now, Tom?
Yeah, I certainly think that kicking will play a much larger part of the game than it ever will in the women's game, and they are going for it.
Yeah, the ref points towards the post. It looks like they're going to try and open up their account tonight. Number 12, James Hall, is going to be the kicker for DMU. It's quite an easy one, just outside the 22. Perfect range for anybody with a decent boot on them, and it's fairly central as well. He'd have done this one 1,000 times in practice, and he immediately has the chance to put DMU 3-0 up here.
Yeah,
as he goes and spots the ball down now. As you can hear in the background now, the Leicester fans are really very unsportsmanly booing him. Normally a rugby crowd stays quiet when an opposition's taking a kick, and he takes it, he threads it straight through the middle of the post confidently. Didn't even need more than 2 steps backwards, easily enough, and now DMU have got the first points on the board tonight.
Yeah, fantastic composure for the kick there. You know, when you've got that much noise behind you, that's a lot of distraction. So to just block that all out, just think about just the ball hitting that, you know, sweetly and truly between the sticks. That's really good play there. You know, as you were saying, University of Leicester occupies this crowd, but if Montfort have been fazed by all that noise that they're making, they certainly haven't showed it so far.
Yeah, and even before the game, when me, you and Amit were talking, we were as a University of Leicester kick-off now. It's a great kick-off there that's almost recovered by their own player, but it's knocked forward, and it's looking as if it's going to be a DMU scrum now. But even before the game, we were discussing about how University of Leicester are possibly favourites going into this. They finished top of the table, De Montfort finished third, and the head-to-head's 1-0 currently to University of Leicester. But those 3 points will settle the nerves. It will make them realise, hey, we're here, we're out in front. Why not? Why can't we stay in front now? As De Montfort take the ball over their own 10-metre line with some crashing forwards play. Number 9, Ben Monzi for DMU looking to spin it out, but the advantage has been pulled up, and it's going to be a penalty to the University of Leicester. Yet a bit more afters there. You can see the blood boiling over from both sides. It means a lot to them now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I feel like that's going to happen a lot early on in the game. I imagine they're thinking going into the first 10 minutes of this game, we want to show them what we're made of. So we're just going to try and hit them as hard as possible. We want to go flying up there, full on rush defence. Try and get a hold of them and bring them to the ground before they get a chance to do anything with it. And naturally, there's going to be a lot of adrenaline pumping. So, I can't say I'm surprised by this, but they're going to settle eventually, and that's when we start seeing the proper play.
Yeah, and University of Leicester kicked straight into touch from their penalty, and they've won the ensuing line out inside the DMU 22, their first visit to the red zone, but immediately they knocked it on, so DMU straight away have a chance to regroup and start again from the beginnings of the pitch. Just close to their 22-metre line, Ben Monti getting ready to put it in, and now we finally have a chance to see what these two packs have when they go directly up against each other. They're both setting themselves, the ref's barking his orders at them, and now it's finally ready to put in. But immediately it's raised straight up, but I'm not sure the ref can even see what the problem was there. It's looking as if Joe Woods from DMU there was immediately brought straight up from his opposite number, Harry Mann there, from the University of Leicester, and now they're going to reset. It only took 3 or 4 seconds there for the scrum to fall apart, but at least it's not collapsing or spinning around. The fact they went straight up, they know that's quite a solvable problem, isn't it?
That's pretty classic rugby when they have to give the restart, because even the referee isn't sure what's gone wrong with the scrum. Sometimes when they bind, the shape just goes wrong, but it looks like it's a good feed in this time.
And DMU win it, and they spin it out, and it's a good kick to touch there.
Clearing their lines, relieving the pressure.
Yeah, clearing the lines, just getting themselves towards their own 10-metre line where the University of Leicester will have to put in at the line out. And just remember, inside your own 22, you're allowed to kick the ball out on the full, which is why often teams look to clear with defensive pressure. But once you're out from your own 22, the ball has to bounce before it reaches the touchline. Otherwise, it's pulled back to the point where you actually kicked it for a line out. So we're near the 10-metre line now, and the University of Leicester it looked like they'd lost their own line out. The ref's waving his arm as advantage DMU, but they've got the ball, and it's a box kick there by Ben Monzi as the DMU players charge forward, but it's a good clean catch there by the University of Leicester fullback. And now they have the ball just inside their own half, spinning it out. First chance to have a look at what this University of Leicester backline's like, but once again some poor handling, and now DMU have a chance inside the big hit there. big hit on number 10 Ian Warrington there, but the ref's pulling it back for the earlier knock-on by the University of Leicester from the line out.
The most amazing thing about that is,
and now it's going to be scrum down DMU. Sorry.
Yeah, most amazing thing about that is he managed to stay on his feet.
Yeah, it was a crashing blow, very similar to the one that we saw in the women's game, where sadly our DMU player had to be stretchered out of the game, but he managed to hold himself up there. And yeah, she had to have equipment on her to keep her warm, the tinfoil blanket, because she was down there so long whilst all the other players were keeping warm. As Ben Monty gets ready to put the ball into the scrum here, and it cycles out almost too easily there. It came out almost instantaneously, and the University of Leicester players have dived on top of it, and they're breaking immediately, but it's broke down, and now De Montfort are trying to scrap possession together, but University of Leicester have got the ball now, and a crossfield kick that's taken cleanly, and mark is called by Ed Atkins in the DMU 22, and University of Leicester have a chance to boot the ball out their own 22 after what looked like could have been a dangerous counter-attack there that they've managed to quell quite easily.
Yeah, good catch there. When you got massive players running at you like that, you just got to keep your eye on the ball, because there's a tendency to look up, because you might be worried about taking a big hit. But if you know that you can take it, knock on there.
Yeah, knock on there by the number 15 for the University of Leicester, Jack Arundel. And it's spilling over again. The ref's going to have a word with one of these players if this carries on, because it's typical of a rugby match, but at the break of every possession, we understand that it's a derby and it's a big rivalry, but the ref will want to keep this in order, and certainly the fans are enjoying it, aren't they? But it's going to be a De Montfort put in. Ben Monzi is going to put his hand into the scrum once the University of Leicester man's receives some medical treatment. Yeah, it's just having some spray put on his knee by the medical attendant from the University of Leicester, and it was good play there by the University of Leicester. They put pressure on DMU, they charged forward into their 22, but once again they didn't make it count, and I would say uncharacteristic, but I haven't seen them enough this season to be able to say that, but certainly all the mistakes they've made this half is uncharacteristic of a team that finished first in their table so far. Yeah,
but it looks like they're really looking for it. It's just that, again, as we said before, patience can be key sometimes. You don't want to force it. You don't want to, you might think, we want to break as quickly as possible, but if you try and do that, sometimes you overrun yourself. You maybe make a rash pass, not well considered. What I've really liked from both teams so far is the really lateral passing, with the players running onto it from really deep and building up all the pace, absolutely explosively taking onto the ball. I feel like that's that's a really high standard of rugby, really intelligent play there, and so I feel like that could be what decides the first break and what could lead to the first try.
Yeah, and Amit Nafwan has joined us back on the microphone. What have you made of the match so far?
It's been a real high intensity, hasn't it? We predicted it before the game started. It's been really intense, and DMU have finally scored their first points of the night. The atmosphere is absolutely buzzing here as the scrum is underway, and I'll hand it back to you, Lewis.
Yeah, University of Leicester won the scrum against the put in there, and DMU are straight back to their defensive duties as University of Leicester attacking inside the DMU half. They're breaking down the left there through the backs, edging closer and closer to the 22 as a ruck forms, and they're looking to spin it out through the forwards, crashing through, breaking a couple of tackles there. But the defence is staying resolute as they haven't managed to make it into the red zone yet. Still passing it inside through the forwards. Luckily, the De Montfort players are hyped up and ready for this, and they're getting to every breakdown quicker than their opposition, but the ball spins loose, and it's coming down this right-hand side to the University of Leicester, who make their way inside the 22 now, and the ball's breaking down in front of us on the touchline, and possession's regained now by DMU. Referees playing advantage for a knock-on, and DMU actually have a chance to start rebuilding possession now and clear their lines as a scrum's called.
There's a high amount of turnovers in this game, isn't there?
There is, and a very high amount, and I was just saying to Tom, these teams both finished first and third respectively in the league table, and University of Leicester, it seems a bit uncharacteristic how many stoppages there are. Do you think it's because it's the varsity game?
Yeah, possibly. There's a whole lot of expectation on their shoulders because the majority of the support is there, so maybe that's weighing heavily on them. You you just never know, because it's a one-off game. It's such a big game. It weighs so heavily on you. The pride is at stake. So you just never know with these teams. And there's a lot of scrums as well as turnovers.
Yeah, as you were saying, the support's definitely on the University of Leicester side. I think that is something ingrained in the tradition of the two universities. And a penalty has been given to DMU there, but he took it too quickly. He's going to have to come back, which, despite DMU proximity-wise actually being closer to the stadium, I'm sure everyone's just stayed at home because they wanted to hear us commentate on it so much.
Well, a couple of people have mentioned that our good old friend Edward Cross, Atmosphere at the Rugby Varsity on Twitter, has tweeted us at Edward Cross. Has tweeted us on at Demon Sport. Atmosphere at the Rugby Varsity sounds absolutely amazing. Thanks to Demon Sport and Demon FM for the coverage. And Flora, our producer for the basketball on Saturdays, has tweeted us saying, so glad I can listen from home in the warmth. Whoop whoop.
Yeah, obviously a lot smarter than us, because it's absolutely freezing out here. I've got to say, I've got a lot of respect for the players out there having to play in these conditions, although I'm sure they're a hell of a lot warmer running as fast as they are.
Yeah, and remember, if you want to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us on Twitter via @DemonFM or @DemonSport, or through Facebook at www.com, facebook.com/DemonFM, as you didn't miss much there. DMU had a line out, which unfortunately they spilled forward for yet another scrum. It seems that all we've talked about tonight over the past few hours are scrums, but at least we're winning in this one.
Yeah, I know scrums remain a big part of the game, even though it seems that their actual use as an attacking setup, an attacking platform, has been diminished over recent years as more teams look to try and force the packs down and get a penalty out of it.
Yes, University of Leicester charging forward there from the ensuing scrum, passing the ball through their back line. They're starting to get their defensive shape together. They haven't made as many ill-disciplined moves other than the knock-ons recently over the past 5 minutes. They're starting to get a foothold into this game, starting to boss territory, but DMU are staying resolute. They're staying sharp in their defence, but they're edging closer. Each yard's vital as they get closer and closer, but once again, the number 3, Joe Woods of DMU, has been playing like a man possessed so far. He's been getting to every breakdown than the other players. But the number 2, Scott Worley for the University of Leicester, breaks through a bit there, and they're only 10 metres. I'd say they're only about 10 metres out from the line now. As they get closer, the number 12, just 2 yards from the line now. University of Leicester breaking possession, and they're scrum out. The number 9.
Barely holding it up.
Yeah, Sebastian Goodyear almost getting to the line now, and it's really real squeaky bum time now for DMU fans as they manage to pull them back a few yards there to the 5-metre line. Oh, and they've cracked possession there, and trying University of Leicester. They've broke down the possession, and despite the early dominance of DMU, they've made possession count when it matters most, and they've rolled over for the try.
Yes, it's a very clever play, seeing that little gap. It looked like the defence had managed to sort out that situation after that initial break that got them right up to the 2-metre line. It seemed like all they'd have to do is just find the smallest of spaces, and surely they would get it over. DMU initially did well to push it back there, but then, very quick play from the ruck. Did the little dummy and then found just enough space to squeeze through. It looked like they weren't quite expecting it. It looked like they expected him to send it out wide, and he took advantage of that. The good little feint, and then darting inside for the try. Very well executed by University of Leicester.
Yeah, and the conversion taken in front of us was missed there. So luckily for DMU, they might have just had a try put up against them, but they still only trail by 2 points, and that's certainly going to prove to be a difference as this match goes on, as two teams so closely matched up as we've seen so far go up against each other. A real important thing to watch out for is making sure that your possessions count, and Leicester so far have made their possessions count. DMU got those 3 points on the board early on, luckily enough, after some really early good spells of dominant possession, but University of Leicester seem a bit more clinical so far, so DMU have a chance to come right back at them at kickoff, as University of Leicester grab the ball now and they take it down at their own 10-metre line with the ruck form, and they spin the ball out, and immediately they do a small chip kick aiming to get it into their number 15's hands, and he grabs it, and now University of Leicester have possession on the halfway line. They're spinning it out towards us here on the touchline. but immediately DMU pressure it. They've got a high line here and they grab the ball and charge it through with possession there. The University of Leicester man has been drove back a couple of yards there by the DMU player. They're spinning it out towards the right to us here. Again being taken down towards the touchline, trying to be forced out for the line out, but immediately it's recovered by Simon Gray for DMU, and now we've regained possession with a scrum yet again towards...
Oh, that's a penalty.
Is that a penalty, is it?
Good play.
Not rolling away there from the Leicester forward. Poor spell of defensive possession there by University of Leicester, and now we have a chance to kick the ball into touch as England and Lions centre Manu Tuilagi, and of course Leicester centre takes his seat towards us to his left, coming out to support the University game as DMU kick the ball into touch.
Several more of them as well.
Yeah,
many Tigers representing here.
Yeah, many Tiger players coming out to watch them. A couple of them, Tom Croft and Dan Cole, spoke to both our men and women's teams yesterday to give them a rousing support, to try and get their head in the right space of to get them in the right space of mind for the game coming up, as DMU win the line out now and they're spinning the ball down the line. But the ref pulls it back for a knock on.
Yeah, I think leading up to that piece of play, I think it was a good defence by Dumont to try and force him towards touch. I think that's a relatively new technique in rugby. When they're on the wings, rather than trying to bring them down, instead you just try and grab their leg in such a way that you try and make them hop, because your natural instinct is to try and stay on your feet. And when you're doing that, it makes it easier for you to keep pushing them and get you closer and closer to touch, until at that point you can win the line out. And you can see in his desperation to try and keep it in field, he threw it wildly to the De Montfort player.
Yeah, now University of Leicester have got the ball on their own 22 now. They're just absorbing some pressure from DMU. They're struggling to clear their own lines, but DMU, fortunately enough for the University of Leicester, have knocked the ball on, so now they have a chance to regroup and get going again. It's very similar, it's shades of the first 5 minutes of this game, where DMU put a lot of pressure through the front line. Their front line defence is fantastic, the way they get to every breakdown, the way they've made every tackle and fought for every ruck. But once the University of Leicester start getting into some open space and spinning the ball down the line, they seem to be a bit more competent in the back line, shredding apart this DMU back line, than they are in the forwards. It's certainly both teams have got their advantages and disadvantages so far.
Yeah, but now the key is not only keep using those advantages, in a really proactive way to actually try and get some points on the board. But where your disadvantages are, you have to be aware of those and shore them up as quickly as possible. Yes,
and the University of Leicester managed to hold on to possession now as the ruck forms in the centre of their own 22. As I was saying earlier, again, once they get the ball in their backs, they start advancing it out. They've made 10 yards progression there just in a couple of phases of play, and they're spinning it out towards the left now, towards the gigantic GNC stand. And they kick the ball forward into a gap, and the number 15 is going to hope that it rolls over the line, and it does, luckily enough for DMU, and they're going to have a chance to take a 22-metre dropout. That was touch and go there. He dove on that pretty early on, didn't he?
Yeah, it looked like the referee had to think about it for a second.
He did, yeah, because if he would have dove on that whilst it was still in the field of play and then gone over the line, it had just been a 5-metre scrum for University of Leicester, but luckily the ball had just trickled over the line from a kick after a University of Leicester break, and now we have a chance to clear our lines, and the drop goal was booted towards the 22-metre drop goal was booted towards the halfway line, but immediately the University of Leicester number 50 runs it straight back, breaking a couple of tackles onto the Leicester 22, and immediately we're under pressure again, just like a few minutes ago, and they're constantly breaking down the DMU defence, breaking one tackle each time they go over. They're getting closer and closer, just inside the 22 now. Yet another cycle of possession there for the University of Leicester as they keep playing the ball through. Their number 9, Sebastian Goodhue, guys work out for him, constantly digging the ball out the back of the ruck and spinning it out, but they're looking to get most of their work done in the forwards there as they gain a couple of yards of possession, heading towards the 5-metre line now. And DMU need to put up an answer now, really, don't they? They need to show that they've got something against this barrage and attack from the University of Leicester as they keep going. as they move towards the centre of the pitch, but the ref pulls it back. I think he's pulling it back for a previous infraction by DMU, and he's called it up for a penalty. And it's,
will they go quick?
Will they go quick? Will they go for touch, or
Yeah,
will they
looks
go
like
for a
it's for the
kick?
post.
They're going for the post. They're going to try and extend their lead over the De Montfort men's rugby team here in Varsity 2014, the last Varsity game of this bumper 2 weeks of Varsity games. They're looking to extend their lead by 5 points.
Yep, it's probably not the hardest kick in terms of distance, inside the 22. But the angle is quite tight, as a right-footed player. He would probably prefer it to be on this side, but still quite tricky. We haven't seen him kick yet, so we're interested to see what how much training he's been putting in, and seeing if that's come off well.
Yeah, it's an acute angle that Jack Much is taking on right now, and after failing his first kick earlier on in the game, he finally manages to make one, making his tally for the night 1 of 2, and he's made it count when it matters most, because this one was worth 3 points, and it moves the score now to University of Leicester 8, DMU 3. They're currently leading by 5 points, which is by no stretch of the imagination a large gap. It just takes one try to get themselves back in there, as number 12 for DMU, James Hall gets the game back underway, and immediately Leicester Uni take the ball straight to the halfway line. They seem to be breaking down tackles and making some free-flowing back moves at will in the last 5 minutes, and certainly with the crowd on their side, they've certainly got momentum swinging in their way now.
Yep, and it's really good strength there from the number 12, managing to brush off tackles. He had the rushing defender going straight at him at a lot of speed, but got the right technique. It's what you often see on TV with some of the household names you may know, when they duck their shoulders low, manage to get in under the tackle and then push them away. It's really good momentum there, and so I think DMU will have to try and make a concerted effort to try and tackle a bit lower than they have been.
Yeah, but luckily enough, DMU, the possession spilled out and they got themselves a line out and they've won it, and now they've created a rolling maul here. At least they're trying to make the maul roll. They are now. They're showing some forward pressure here, some forward dominance. The Leicester pack, however, force it to the ground, and we've got a ruck formed, and number 9 Ben Monzi dives on it to ensure possession remains with us, but there was some hands in the ruck there by Leicester Uni. They're again a bit handsy there. And now it's a penalty to De Montfort University in great kicking range. And the captain, number 4, Chris Gibbs, has chosen to go for the post. So now James Hall has a chance to cut this deficit to just 2 points. It's a really close game now. As we were saying earlier in the game, it's really tactical, isn't it? It's been quite low scoring, probably as we predicted, but 8-6 going into the 24th minute of the game. You can't argue with that after all the rain we've had. We've still got a light dusting of rain before us, and we had some early handling errors, but that seemed to calm down now. We've got some good solid possession game by both teams, and James Hall's currently lining up the kick.
Yes,
DMU fans telling the rest of the crowd to be quiet, but it seems as if the students of Leicester Uni, the University of Leicester students, not being sportsmen, as the kick's taken there, and it looks like it's going to come up short, and it comes out way short there by James Hall, about 5 metres short, and immediately University of Leicester grab the ball and kick out into touch. And we're almost back exactly where we were just a minute ago, where De Montfort University have a line out just inside their opponent's half.
Yeah, it was quite a bit further distance to his initial kick, and a little bit of a tighter angle. Still seems like if he really managed to put his laces through it, I think the accuracy, there was no problem with that. He just needed, maybe 5 or so yards extra on the kick to get that over. But still, the deficit remains only 5.
And the line-out's taken there by University of Leicester. Sadly, it breaks down to them, but it looks as if a DMU player, yet again, Joe Woods, who's playing so well so far, grabbed the ball, turned and faced into a maul situation, and now it looks as if it's going to be a scrum down to University of Leicester. I think it was knocked on in the line out there by DMU. The ref was playing possession, but when Joe Woods regained possession there, the ref decided to bring it back, and we're just next to the yellow Aviva sign here on the centre circle, the centre of the pitch. And it's a put in by the University of Leicester. The scrum cycling round. Ben Monzi is staying on top of it, and his great play there, but he broke the line too quick and it was offside, and now the University of Leicester have a chance with a penalty to put the ball into touch and gain some territory here.
Yeah, they'll be disappointed with that. But going back to what you were saying about Joe Woods, I agree. He's been integral to all of the good things that DMU have done so far. We were talking earlier about the number of turnovers that have been occurring in this game, and I think in large part when DMU have managed to steal possession from the University of Leicester, it's been largely through Joe Woods getting into the ruck early on before University of Leicester can settle and manage to keep the ball for themselves. He's getting over there, he's staying on his feet, very good technique, he's getting his hands on the ball and he's ripping it back for them quick before University of Leicester have a chance to react.
But the University of Leicester, again, once they get the ball out of that forwards into their back line, that's where some of the weaknesses are exposed on this DMU side as they charge forward into the DMU 22 now. They've got an offence spread evenly on both sides and they choose to go down towards our right side. Great offload there to number 13 who heads back inside, heading towards the 5 metre line now. University of Leicester charging forward towards the try line. Possessions broke down now to the ruck. DMU have got to stay strong, got to stay resolute as the number 10 fakes it, spins, gets closer, just a yard out now for University of Leicester. They spin it out. Once again stopped by the DMU forward pack. And they're looking to spin it out to the left. This is real tight times now for DMU. They've got to find a way to stop this before they move beyond one score down. But the University of Leicester forwards are just barraging down on them, bombarding onto the line, trying to get that elusive second score that had put them beyond one try from DMU and surely start to demoralise this side after starting the game so well. Recycling the ball out the ruck, they're looking to move the ball forward, but the DMU pack are saying no, and they drive them back 2 or 3 yards back to the 5 metre line. A sloppy pass there manages to bounce back up into the University of Leicester players' grasp as they're playing it down the blind side away from us in the corner of the pitch there. Spun back out now to the number 10. Spun out again, missing a player, but he didn't have the support of him, but a great offload there to the number 11. And is he going to find his way to the try line? No, great covering defence there by DMU. And again picked up and driven out into touch. Great defence there by DMU, taking it into touch. Number 11, Ed Atkins there with a crucial defensive stop. And they've got themselves a line out and they're still under pressure, but they have a chance to kick it out.
God, talk about never giving it up, even to the last man. They looked really stretched there and getting out to the wing so quickly. It like he would have the pace to just do a looping run all the way around them. But he managed to track him all the way there, using great pace and then managing to get low enough to be able to knock him down. And then them trying to sneak around on the blind side, they were aware of that trick and they managed to knock him into touch.
And the line-out successful there for DMU was Simon Gray's eagle-eyed throw there, and immediately Ben Monzi does the box kick out. He does the sensible thing, and the number 11 tried to do a weird thing there, almost a volleyball shot to try and inbound it, but it seems to have worked out, but he's immediately launched into touch there on the 10 metre line, again by Ed Atkins, whose defensive play over the past 2 or 3 minutes may just have saved DMU 5 or 7 points.
Yeah, you're always happy with the box kick. There's not really much plan other than just clear your lines. So they'd be very happy that they've managed to get possession at this line out, given where they were. They've made themselves about 20 to 30 yards there, so they'll be very happy with the return.
Yet again, another good line out there by DMU, winning it and forming them all. A chance there, Ben Monty to spin it out there. He passes it out to number 8, who charges forward but loses possession all too easily to number 7, Hugh Lockhart of University of Leicester. And now they're back on the ball. DMU aren't doing themselves any favours as Leicester break down the left. Men over. Again though, he's brought into touch by the seams of things. The refs pulled it back here. I'm not sure what for, but the refs pulling it back for an infraction. It seemed as if the University of Leicester were breaking down that left. I think he may have seen a forward pass there, and it may be a scrum down on the 10 metre line for DMU. But it was looking ominous there for DMU as Leicester broke down that left-hand side with Joe Coleman on their left wing, who's provided a lot of breaks down there, but it's come up fruitless once again, luckily enough for us.
Yeah. There's, a get out of jail free card there with the
certainly, yeah.
with the, and it almost looked like they might be able to get the interception. It was a really high missed pass from the University of Leicester to get it out to that wing. It just barely got over the fingertips of the Russian DMU player, but they were very happy that it was called back for the forward pass.
Yeah, and it was good scrummage in there by DMU as Ben Monzi tried to reclaim the ball and launch the ball out, but Sebastian Goodyear pounced right on him, but luckily it fell to a DMU back. And now the ball is in the ruck with the DMU forwards charging forward. They've certainly won the battle of the front row. I'd certainly say that University of Leicester's back row seems more agile so far. Their flankers and their number 8 causing a lot of breaks, which has resulted in getting them into the DMU's 22-metre line. But the strong play by DMU's front lines keeping them in this forwards game, and they're looking to spin it out on their own 10-metre line, looking to clear their lines and actually start getting some territory for themselves after being under the cosh for the last 5-10 minutes now, as the ball again is in the ruck in between the 10-metre line and the halfway line. Recycling the ball once again, every yard, every movement forwards, another positive step for this DMU side who have looking to reclaim some momentum in this game. Yes. Recycling possession.
Players slowed down quite a bit.
Yeah, slowed down a lot, as you can probably tell by my lack of being able to tell you anything interesting going on. But there seems to have been a break in the ruck there. Great play there by DMU as they've advanced the ball another 10 yards there over towards the GNC stand, past the halfway line into their opponent's half.
Go for a kick.
And he's gone for a little dink kick there, has Ian Warrington, that's been recouped by the University of Leicester man. We shook off 4 tackles, it almost looked like, but the refs brought it back again for...
Seems like a very long advantage.
It was an extremely long advantage, especially seeing as Ian Warrington kicked it as well.
Yeah, I felt like that was their advantage played.
Normally when a player kicks it, the ref decides that that's advantage over, but because it was just a little dink over the top, the refs pulled it back, and it's a DMU penalty just inside the University of Leicester half, and he's kicked it straight into touch as James Hall, and a chance now for DMU to start building some pressure. We've got a line out inside the 22 as Amit Nafani rejoins us.
Yeah, it was some great, some great defence there on the line by DMU. I just felt that the quickness of the passing of Leicester caught DMU out short there, and it was some great flying, saving tackles there by DMU that kept them in this game.
Putting it to you bluntly so far, Amit, who do you think's been the better team so far in this rugby game?
I think it's been Leicester, but only just because of their agileness to break through the lines.
Yeah, it has been really close, and despite the fact that Leicester have dominated the last 10 minutes, they've dominated territory, you'd argue, and they've been breaking the line really well. You'd have to say that DMU have played really well in the forwards, they've scrapped well, and certainly when they've been under extreme scrutiny on their defence, they came up with the goods just a few minutes ago that's resulted in getting themselves in the University of Leicester 22 and a chance to get some points on the board.
Surprisingly, the atmosphere has kind of died down a little bit, despite Leicester still being in the lead and creating chances as the scrum breaks up there.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing for DMU. As we said, we've probably got more people here from the University of Leicester in the crowd, but the DMU fans are certainly making themselves heard. We've seen a few of the football lads here have certainly had a good day. We've had a whitewash in the football today. We may have lost the first team game last week, but our second, third and fourth won today. Our second team on a penalty shootout, winning 7-6 as the University of Leicester scrum half puts the ball in. They win the ball. Take it out back, but it's immediately spilt there by number 10, Jack Much there of the University of Leicester, and luckily enough for the University of DMU rather, we have a chance to spin the ball out and create our own attack as we barrel our way down into the 22-metre line, into the red zone. Again, trying to get most of the yardage and phases of play through the forwards, but we spin the ball out now to number 13, who's trapped there. He's just got to try and shore up possession. That's what you want to do in those phases of play. You just want to make sure you keep hold of the ball, not try and do a risky offload as DMU keep the ball in the ruck. Ben Monzi spinning the ball out. Oh no, he fakes it and decides to go alone, and as the ruck reforms over him. Again, charging forward. The forwards are going to try and do a couple of phases of play now while Ben Monzi gets himself back on his feet so he can start pulling the strings there for the back line. they start advancing more and more into the University of Leicester half now, half rather 22, and it's looking good here for De Montfort University, and it's been called up for a penalty again. Offside there for University of Leicester, and a much easier chance, you'd argue, and we're pretty sure we're going to go for 3 points now. A much easier chance of going for goal and cutting the gap to 2 now.
This is almost exactly where he scored his first penalty, so I feel like this is almost again cert for another.
Yeah, pretty much a gimme now for James Hall, who's just slightly inside the 22 here. It's very, very central, a chance to put 3 points on the board. Again, you can hear the De Montfort fans telling everyone to be quiet, your typical shushes that you hear when you're at a rugby crowd that you'd hear on a Saturday here at Welford Road. But the University of Leicester fans are doing their best to put him off. And has it worked?
No.
It has, and is missed. It's gone right at the post. James Hall holds his hand up to say sorry to the rest of his team, but the rest of his team are just going to get on with it, as it's now a 22-metre dropout for the University of Leicester. But that's 2 of 3 kicks now missed tonight by James Hall, and that's 6 points that have gone on offer for him. So we could arguably sit in here looking at a DMU 9-8 lead, but instead we're down by 6 points, 5 points rather, 8-3, and the chance for University of Leicester to go up the other end. But immediately it looks as if they spilled the ball, or was it a DMU player that spilled the ball? No, yeah, University of Leicester immediately spilled the ball, and they've been pretty much butterfingers all night, haven't they?
Yeah, and maybe every so often the conditions are going to call for it. The ball, whenever the ball hits the deck, it's going to pick up some moisture. It's going to get some mud on it. They're going to do their best to avoid that, and I think overall they've dealt with the conditions better than the women did. But it's still going to be a problem they're going to have to think about quite a lot in this game.
In terms of high-level rugby, though, it's just been too much. We can talk about the conditions all we want. The rain stopped now. It's quite a cold night. The air's quite bitter, so it'll dry up pretty quickly. I'm pretty sure the ball will be pretty dry now. We can give them excuses as much as we want, but you can't be making that many handling errors, especially as the ball's designed for grip.
Indeed.
As the DMU players now break towards the centre of the 10-metre line inside the University of Leicester half there. Just a little dink kick there by Ian Warrington rather, goes towards the touchline there, and it's going to be a University of Leicester line out just 5 metres into their own, after their own try line, and a chance for DMU to put some pressure on.
It actually looks like it's a De Montfort throw.
Is it? Oh wow, it's a De Montfort throw just 5 metres in, a real chance now for
that's
DMU.
That's outstanding field position, certainly, and I feel like that. I always enjoy seeing those little chip grubber kicks, because the way that the ball bounces naturally when it's that low to the ground makes it very difficult for any covering player to deal with it, and you can tell that he had no option but to take it in touch for safety. Yeah,
well, it's literally impossible as a player to predict where those things are going to bounce because the ball's egg-shaped. So, but University of Leicester seem to have lost that line out to DMU, and DMU are barrelling down. Our view's obscured here by a man standing up on the terrace looking down at the game. But luckily he steps to the right a bit, and I can finally see Ben Monzi ordering his troops into battle as the University of Leicester fans behind us are trying to rally their team into turning this around. But DMU has certainly got the upper hand. Drive it over, and it looks as if they might have gone over the line.
Hasn't been held up though.
The ref's going to call it as held up. If this was the... No, typically in this situation on a rugby match, we'd see a ref make a square box signal with his hands indicating that it needs to go to the TV official, but obviously we don't have that.
Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury.
Yeah, maybe next year we'll have that technology implemented, but not this year. And it's going to be a 5-metre scrum now for DMU as the ball got held up on the line there. University of Leicester doing their best defensively to stop it, and similar shades of what DMU produced at the other end just minutes ago. They've managed to hold it up as Ben Monsley here gets ready to put the ball in and spin it out. He taps the ball on his tight head prop shoulder, telling him that he's about to put it in, but the ref has to reset the scrum. Nervy time to the University of Leicester, but even more so for us DMU fans, as we'd like to see DMU actually score a try tonight in the men's or women's game and make this game level, if not go ahead.
Still such outstanding field position. If you can whip the ball out quickly, look at the way that the backs are staggered. They want to be running onto this quickly. When you're at that pace, you've got to be literally pitch perfect with your defence to stop that.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they kept in the forwards, but they throw it out. Ian Warrington, the number 10, the fly half here, pulling the strings for DMU, takes it into contact. And now Leicester throw it down the blind side where they're going to get the forwards involved again. It's looking as if they're going to take it down the blind side. Oh, he's just tackled and brought down. And now it's a ruck as the possession goes loose. And the forwards are just recycling possession. It's a good idea. The DMU forward lines had a lot of dominance early on this game.
1 metre out is so close. Oh,
and what's the ref brought this up for? The refs brought it up for a penalty towards DMU, which is strange, seeing as they actually had possession. So you'd have thought they'd have been able to...
Strange advantages so far in this game.
Very strange advantage there from the ref. And they're just gonna tap and go. Ben Monsley gives it to his number 8. Ian Bakenya, who immediately takes it into contact. And DMU aren't mucking around here. They're not going for the 3 points. They're not going for touch. They're going for all 7 here. They know that they deserve this try. They know they need to make their possession tell.
Oh, is it another penalty?
It's another penalty. I think the refs giving the University of Leicester player a send-it off.
Oh, that's a sin bin, it seems.
A sin bin. Send it off, rather, a sin bin.
Well,
who's coming off now for University of Leicester? It seems as if it's one of their backs. Doesn't look like a forward, does it? Despite most of the possession taking place in the forwards.
Yep, that's number 10.
Number 10, wow. The fly half, Jack Much. For the University of Leicester, he can't believe, he's shaking his head down at the touchline. He can't believe what's just happened. He's got to come off the field for 10 minutes. It's a penalty to DMU, and despite the fact that they chose to take it into contact and run it at the University of Leicester forwards pack last time, they're choosing to go for the 3 points. James Hall's going to try and make it third time lucky here because he's taken free kicks tonight, but his last 2 have been misses, so he's got the chance to actually...
Yeah, I can only assume that the crowd is going to be equally as unaccommodating as they have been.
And you'll think that DMU have decided to go for the 3 points now in light of the fact that their opposition no longer have their number 10, so they know they'll be resetting possession now against 14 players. And it's well taken there by James Hall, and there's only 2 points in it. The whistle goes to half-time, so that means that kick was the last possession of the half. The DMU go in, they may be trailing by 2 points, but they've certainly got momentum on their side. It's 8-6 to University of Leicester after that last second kick there, and the University of Leicester will be starting the second half without their talismanic back, Jack Much, there in the back line, as we head over to Amit Nafwani and Liam Batch for some action and reaction and some analysis into what went on in those first 40 minutes. It's been a great first half, hasn't it, guys?
Yeah, well, as you said, it has been action-packed. What a fantastic half of rugby that was, Liam.
Yeah, it was really end-to-end stuff. I mean, University of Leicester at one stage looked like they'd run away with it, but DMU kept fighting, and they've worked their way back into this game, and they can take momentum into the second half now.
Yeah, momentum is definitely on their side now. So what do they need to do to keep it up?
They need to score tries, haven't they? I mean,
they've threatened, haven't they?
Sorry?
They've threatened to try to score that
they
try.
have.
They
I
just
mean,
need to cross that line.
There was a period in that first half where University of Leicester were really dominant, but they have gradually grown back into this game, and they've shown really positive signs. I mean, just now they got a bit unlucky not to get a try themselves. They showed a bit of invention, but University of Leicester's defence proved just enough before the sin bin.
Yeah, it proved just enough. So it's currently 8-6 to University of Leicester as the cheerleaders on the far corner, on the far side, make their way onto the Welford Road turf. And let's see what they have in store for us to treat us on this bitterly cold evening here at Welford Road.
I don't envy them, aren't it?
No, exactly.
It's bitterly cold.
It is very cold. When I'm not talking, my teeth are chattering. Tweet us at Demon FM if you want to get in contact with us. Let us know where you're listening to us from in the warmth of your house or your car. Let us know where you're listening to us from, and at Demon FM is live tweeting the game, and it's 60300. Start your message with the word Demon if text is your thing, and it's facebook.com/Demon FM. Tom, you've had a couple of seconds to dissect or think about that half of rugby? What's your overriding feeling on it?
I feel like it's been really, really good attacking play from both sides, and it seemed like they came agonisingly close towards the end of that. If only they could have just, found that inch of space they needed. Like 1 metre out, it seemed at times. So I was really impressed with Montfort, but I feel like in the second half, those first 10 minutes when they have that man advantage due to that sin bin will be absolutely crucial. That's the time they need to score. If they do that, the entire complexion of the game changes.
Tom mentioned inches make a difference, and it certainly has. It made the difference of scoring and not scoring tonight, Liam. And Tom also mentioned that sin bin. How crucial will that be?
Right now, I'm more focused on the cheerleading, to be honest. In all seriousness, no. Look, Tom's absolutely right. The sin bin's going to prove crucial, and we saw it in the women's game. That extra player advantage is going to make the difference. DMU need to get hold of the ball, exploit the space, and they can turn this game around very quickly.
Do you want to do some commentary on the cheerleading then?
Yeah, why not? I mean, the girls are currently going through a classic routine. Whoa! One girl went flying, but
it's got shades of the 2002 World Cup.
It has.
Yeah. That was a close one, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was very close. But I mean, we can see the girls going for the routine. 6-0 they won. We'll mention that again.
Yeah, it was a great result there for DMU Varsity.
You can see why. You can absolutely see why right now.
Yeah, they're great. Their formation, their
faultless, absolutely faultless.
I wouldn't dare be thrown up in the air by
I'd like to give it
two
a go.
people.
Get me on that pitch right now.
Oh, we should do it.
There is not a person out of place or a body check out of place from the DMU girls. It's fantastic.
She's high up. Whoa, she's gone.
Well, oh dear. All I can think right now is they must be so cold.
Yes. I don't envy them.
Cold. Yep.
And they're done just like that. Blink and you miss it.
They give us a little wave.
Lightning quick.
And they make their way off.
DMU cheerleading.
Bit of inspiration there for the guys before they come back out. I don't think they need much more inspiration, but especially after such a great first half performance as they're running off towards the corner there.
And the second half is just moments away as we watch the cheerleaders make their way off the Welford Road turf. What a pleasure it was to be viewing them on this bitterly cold night, as it's still 8-6 at half time. What are we expecting from the next 40 minutes of rugby?
Plenty more action, I imagine. I mean, it was a really entertaining first half. The pendulum kept swinging both ways. And as we keep reiterating, I think if DMU are going to win this game, they need to make the first 10 minutes count. That's where this game could be won or lost for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The first 10 minutes are going to be crucial because De Montfort are in this game. And let's face it, before they come into this game, they came third. University of Leicester came first in the table. So it goes without saying that they weren't the favourites coming into this. But trailing just by 2, and in my opinion, being the better team in terms of possession and discipline, just goes to show that they can come out, and if in this first 10 minutes they keep it to within 2 or even take the lead, then this is anyone's game. But if University of Leicester come out firing in the start of this second half, that would demoralise us. So they really need to make sure they're on their game from the second the ball kicks off.
Yeah, they have to be fired up from minute 1 of this second half. Like if they give University of Leicester too much time to settle down, and then they lose that man advantage when the player returns from the sin bin, I feel like the momentum is lost there. So they've got to act immediately. The try has to be right then in those first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If not, it's going to be a lot harder to get back into the game.
And let's not forget that DMU are coming out onto the pitch with 15 guys, and the University of Leicester are coming out onto the pitch with 14. So, as Liam was saying, the first 10 minutes are crucial, but at the same time, the first 10 minutes are crucial for DMU. The pressure's on DMU in a way. They've got a man advantage. University of Leicester are lacking one of their backs, and that's arguably where they were getting most of their work done in the first half. Their forwards looked a bit weak, our forwards looked a lot more dominant. So the fact that they're not as strong in the backs of the first 10 minutes really needs to be exploited.
Okay, let's just remind you what happened earlier on in this day. A lot of Varsity events went on today as Varsity comes to an end in 2014. DMU's seconds football team won 7-6 on penalties after it was 0-0 in normal time. The third team thrashed the Leicester team 4-1. and the Force won convincingly 3-0 against Leicester. We've spoken about it previously, Liam, but just to say again how convincing those wins were earlier on today.
Yeah, the football guys did absolutely fantastically today. It's been a mixed season for a lot of those teams, but it's nice to sign off their season in style like they've done today, especially with the drama of the DMU football seconds team to win on penalties like that. I've seen a bit of footage from it, and it looked like a great scene.
There was other drama in the indoor cricket. The seconds lost by 1 ball. Leicester chased down a reasonable target with 1 ball remaining. The first team, unfortunately, won by 23 runs for the Leicester team. And in lacrosse, the men won 21. That's Leicester, that is. And the women's lacrosse, Leicester won 17-2 earlier on today. In the other rugby game, the men's seconds, Leicester won 35-9. In the men's hockey, Leicester won 4-2. And in dodgeball, Leicester won 7-0. So that's brought you up to date on what happened earlier on today here at Varsity 2014. It's been a fantastic couple of weeks, hasn't it, Liam? We've mentioned it before. Sports you probably never would have heard of, taking part and competing, all for fun and having a little bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure they've had great fun. I don't really know where the last few weeks have gone, to be honest. It only seems like yesterday we were kicking things off with the football, if you pardon the pun. But yeah, it's been a great few weeks. DMU have held their own, more than held their own. We've had some great results in the football, in the rowing, and the cheerleading. Hopefully as well in the rugby. If the next 40 minutes go to plan, then we could be celebrating a DMU win. And what a fantastic way that would be to sign off Varsity.
Exactly right. Let's give a shout out to Kevin Jones on Twitter. He's tweeted us at Demon Sport. He's following our Twitter feed. Looks like a close game, and you never stop supporting DMU. And he's posted a picture of his DMU ties up. So it's good to see the DMU never dies in you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for that tweet. Let's hope that we can do something to shout about by the end of the game.
Yeah, that's it. You can also get in contact with us at Demon Sport and at Demon FM on Twitter, facebook.com/Demon FM. And it's on text message if that's your thing. It's 60300. Start your message with the word Demon as the crowd continue to talk amongst themselves, and there's
they're freezing at it.
Yeah, they need to keep themselves active, otherwise they will freeze. And there's a real buzz about this place as we're waiting this second half of rugby. 40 minutes to come of hopefully some spectacular sport to end Varsity 2014.
Let's hope so, Amit, because there's 40 minutes left to go in Varsity for 2014. I'm sure the DMU are going to bring home the bacon, so to speak. So I'm just trying to throw in as many puns as I can between now.
I know.
But no, seriously, it's a big 40 minutes of DMU rugby. I think the crowd are on tenterhooks right now. They're nervous. I'm pretty nervous. Can they do it? Yes, they can. Bob Builder once said.
Can they do it, Tom?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We saw at the end of that first half. That's what they're made of. You can keep that going for the next 40 minutes, and it certainly didn't look like they were showing any signs of tiring. Then yeah, I think they can absolutely steal this game from the University of Leicester.
Yeah, we can throw out all the philosophical quotes we want, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what happens on the pitch over the next 40 minutes.
The DMU team have just been greeted back onto the pitch to a chorus of boos from the University of Leicester support. Let's hope they can silence them in this next 40 minutes. They look pumped up, they look ready to go, and they look ready for what is going to be a huge 10 minutes ahead of them. And let's not forget, we've spoken about how big this next 10 minutes is, they have that extra man advantage. But they've got to keep pushing Leicester and not let them settle in this. As you said quite famously around 15 minutes ago, Amit, every inch is going to make a difference in this one.
Exactly. So Tom, before we get underway and we hand over to Lewis and yourself, who are the key players that are going to win and lose this game?
I think one player that we spotlighted a lot in the first half, GMU's number 3, Joe Woods, winning a lot of turnovers, getting to the ruck and the breakdown really quick, and helping to win that ball, even in a defensive way. You know, if you steal possession, if you can then counter-attack quickly, I think he'll be absolutely key.
Yeah, Joe Wood has been fantastic, and thanks to that, Amit and Liam during the half-time there, we'll be hearing from Amit over the course of the second half, give us his views. Hopefully he'll be a lot more chirpy, a lot more cheery about what's going on in the pitch.
Anyway, the game's kicked off.
And the game's kicked off. DMU have launched the ball into the University of Leicester half, who immediately rebound the ball straight back to them. So we have an early DMU University line out to start the second half, just inside their own half. Their line out was pretty successful in the first half, bit of a mixed bag maybe. I think they made 3 out of 4 successfully, which isn't a bad strike rate, but you don't want to be missing them now.
Oh, not a great throw.
And that was a terrible throw. He launched it up, miscommunication there with his man, and it ended up actually hitting the leg of the man that actually picked up ready to take the line-out throw. And it wasn't straight, and University of Leicester have chosen to take the scrum put in just inside the DMU half, so they have the chance to have the first attack of this second half. Just playing with 14 men, so their back line's just got 5 guys. So 5 against 6 essentially in the back line there. As the ball gets recycled out, it looks like an easy enough scrum for University of Leicester, who start to spin the ball out. University of Leicester has been pushed back a long way there, double team there, back to inside his own half, but he just about manages to gain a couple of yards as plays reset and University of Leicester start putting the ball through their forwards, cycling possession, trying to bombard their way through. Yet another phase, no movement there, good defence there by DMU. DMU are holding strong, they're keeping a really high line. I don't think they've been called for offside once this match, but they've kept a really high line. They've got to the possession very well throughout the match.
Down.
And what looked like a charge down there from the ensuing kick there by DMU is brought back by the ref for a previous infringement by the University of Leicester. Yet another knock on. They seem to be wanting to carry on the way they left off in the first half. I wouldn't like to even put a guess on the amount of knock-ons that the University of Leicester have actually committed tonight, but the fact that they're still up by 2 points, they won't be too upset with themselves. It's been ill-disciplined with the handling, but luckily enough for us, it means that DMU now have the put-in at the scrum at the halfway line here, just above the bright yellow Aviva sign in the centre of the pitch, and the scrum's gone vertical, but the ref's letting it play out. He's let it form into a ruck. He's just let that one go ahead. I think most other refs would have called for that to be reset, but it's nice to see him play on. But in fact, no, I'm not anymore, because he's given the penalty to the University of Leicester for putting hands in the ruck there. It broke down into a ruck very quickly from the scrum there, and the number 15 for the University of Leicester, Jack Arundel's taken over kicking duties while his number 10's off the pitch with a sin bin, and he kicks the ball into the touch, and it's just inside the De Montfort 22, and they have a real chance now to start knocking on the door of the De Montfort defence.
Yeah, we were saying just a moment ago about the number of knock-ons, but when you're knocking the ball on that frequently and you get that advantage, you get to retake possession in the scrum. You've really got to make the use of it. I feel like DMU have been wasteful so far in that respect. So they're going to have to be more clinical with that advantage. They've been given quite a lot of opportunities to get back in the game, a lot of advantages in various areas of the field, not least of which this man advantage. So if they don't do something with it now, and time is ticking on that sin bin, then they will have wasted a really good opportunity. Yeah,
time's eating away at this sin bin time. We're currently 3 minutes into this second half, so just 7 minutes until young Jack Much can come back on for the University of Leicester as the ball spills free on the De Montfort University 10-metre line, and the University of Leicester grab the ball and barrel their way over and form a ruck. They seem to be shaping up pretty well offensively now, getting ready to line the ball up and play the ball throughout their backs as they look to attack the De Montfort 22, but De Montfort immediately put them on the back foot again. It looks as if they've won the ball, and they have done, and Ben Monsley's getting ready to spin the ball out, and he doesn't. He opts for the box kick instead, and it's being chased down. But it's immediately sent back with a kick right back at them, but it's easy enough to take, and he's run it back at them, and he's at his own 10-metre line is Ben Monsley, who took the catch cleanly there from number 14, Adam Woolley's kick there for the University of Leicester. It's good play now by De Montfort.
Yeah, now they just need to settle themselves.
Yeah, they just need to take care of possession now, and it looks as if they seem to have knocked it forward in the ruck there, but luckily enough the ref didn't spot it there because it was facing us, and it happened whilst he was on the other side of it as number 6, Tim Gilbert, spins round there, the flank of the DMU, but it spills loose out the ruck. The ref hasn't got his arm up for advantage for either side, so it must have been a cleanly won ball there by the University of Leicester as they break down the right-hand side into the DMU 22 there. Adam Woolley with a great break down the right there for the University of Leicester, proving that despite the fact that they're a man down in the backs, they're still managing to get the job done. And they've got themselves into the red zone now. They've got themselves into the De Montfort 22, and now De Montfort's defence has just got to stay strong.
Yeah, we saw good examples of it early on, including that absolutely amazing last-ditch tackle in the first half. You know, can we see more of that? We'd like to think so, certainly.
Yeah, the ball's currently being spun out by the University of Leicester, who are currently charging into the 22. They're not making much headway since they got in there, but the fact is they did get themselves in that 22, and that'll be worrying for DMU. They've got one more man than their opposition, but they seem to keep finding themselves in this position where they're defending and trying to hold up their own 5-metre line, where you really want that to be your team when you've got a man advantage, and they'll be looking to get that ball back as the University of Leicester keep working their way up and down that line, but they just can't find any more yardage. But they've managed to find a gap now, and it seems as if they're going to run it in for the try, sadly. And it looks as if number 13 is that Kieran Robinson for the University of Leicester. Found a gap there and ran it in for the try. Really poor defensive play there for DMU. And sadly, the score moves to 13-6 now for the University of Leicester. And it really seems as if DMU just switched off there. You can't describe it any other way, because that was not the first half defensive display we saw. That was some lax defensive cohesiveness there. They didn't have their flat line. They seemed to be zigzagged as if they were about to receive a starting kickoff. The space was exploited, and it was an easy enough try there as the University of Leicester are now 7 points ahead, which is a whole try converted. So if they make this, it's a tough kick. It's right down by the touchline. If they make this kick now, then they move themselves 9 points ahead, and it's a real tough task going into the rest of the half.
Goes for it.
Oh, luckily enough for De Montfort, however, the kick is missed, and we only trail by 7 points. Still, they shouldn't be getting their heads down. You've still got 34 minutes left of this half. Plenty of time to get a try on the board. And they know from their first half display they've got the ability to get themselves into their opponent's 22. They haven't showed us the ability to convert it into a try yet, but they really need to get their heads together and start getting some... I'd say maybe they need to start getting some moves together in the backs, because their attacking's mainly featured in the forward so far this game, as they kick off and it's immediately sent back down their own throats in the 10-metre line. Spun out, DMU trying to advance up the pitch. He just about dodges a very fierce looking tackle there, does Connor Warburton, just avoids himself the fate of previous people today in Varsity. There's been some big hits in the men's and women's game, one woman even being stretchered off, another being so badly injured that they actually had to end the game with 5 minutes to go. With the University of Leicester team 14-0 up, as Ben Monsley there's taken the ball onto the University of Leicester 10-metre line, charging forward, exploiting the gap on the blind side, but the ball's lost forward. It's knocked forward by the DMU players, and they'll be upset with that. They couldn't keep their discipline, they couldn't keep their handling, as the ball's brought back for a scrum there for the University of Leicester, because that was a real chance there. Not exactly a real chance to go on and score a try there, but a real chance to just solidify possession, a real chance to start gaining a foothold in territory here, a chance to start putting some of their own attacking plays together. But it's looking as if with just a minute and a bit to go of the sin bin there for Jack Much, it's looking as if the University of Leicester are actually going to be 5 points better off than when they actually lost their man and went 14 down.
Yeah, a chance wasted there, really. And as you can see, he runs back onto the pitch.
He's coming back on now, a little bit early by the looks of our clock, but I'm guessing the ref's watches
a lot of disappointments in those 10 minutes for DMU. You know, the defence, I mean, credit to Kieran Robertson of Leicester University for finding the right line for for that to get that try. But DMU's defence really made it easy for him. It was too stagnant. They didn't have any sort of shape. Now running up and getting their attack, they're just spilling the ball far too easily. It's just not good enough. And now with the man advantage lost, they're going to really struggle here.
And the University of Leicester won the put-in of their own scrum and immediately did a little grubber kick, and they've played it forward. And the University of Leicester lost possession, however. DMU have got the ball. They created a rolling maul rather that's still going. Really good play here by the DMU forwards, rolling it towards the Leicester 22. The penalties for DMU now. University of Leicester seem to collapse the scrum into a ruck, but DMU have no, he hasn't called that. Rather, it looks as if his arm signal was signifying that, but a kick was floated high up into the air there by the number 15 for University of Leicester, Jack Arundel, but it was caught by a DMU player just about. It bounced backwards and he's been put right on the back foot now as the University of Leicester charge over their own half. Jack Much with his first bit of spell of possession, poking the ball into an empty part of the field, and it's really good bit of territory play there by Jack Much as he kicks the ball inside the DMU 22. DMU have got the line out just inside their own 22, but that's not where they want to be. They want to be closer to the University of Leicester try line as they're looking to recoup not a large deficit, but it certainly feels like a large deficit on a night where the scoring's been relatively low.
Yeah, the relative scarcity in scoring. Of course, 7 points, you get a try with in a good part of the end zone. It makes it easy for a conversion, and suddenly the scores are drawn level.
Yeah, the end zone, mixing it a bit up with
a bit of American football.
Yeah.
They've it seems they've won the line out there.
Did we win the American football varsity? We did. Yeah. So use as much American football terminology as you want, because at DMU we're normally good at that. As the University of Leicester break forward, approaching the DMU 5 metre line, bundling the ball forward, grubbering it, hacking the ball on the floor, but the ref's calling it for a knock on there by DMU, and it's going to be a scrum down University of Leicester just 6 metres out. And it's starting to look, however, as if University of Leicester are starting to get a foothold in this. Prior to this start of this half, we were saying about how DMU really needed to show their authority in the first 10 minutes, but it's the University of Leicester that have come out and done exactly that. They seem to be the more dominant team, more in control even when they had 14 men. And to reverse that, we might need a bit of fortune. We might need our forwards to just barrel forward and get a couple of breaks, but it's looking as if University of Leicester are starting to show why they're first in the table at the moment. As they spin the ball out, Jack Much passes the ball inside. The ball's spilled in possession though, and DMU have a chance to clear their lines. They have a chance to start getting the ball out of their own 22. The ball's in a ruck. DMU looking to spin it out. Advantage going their way. They're going to kick it out. Good kick there. Good hefty kick. Really good kick. Bounce, and a really fortunate bounce there. Falls to the number 14 for the University of Leicester, Adam Woolley, who manages to recover it really well, because it was a really dodgy bounce that fell away from him, but he manages to recover it, get his team back on the front foot as Jack Much grabs the ball again and goes for another kick that lands just inside the 22, but the left winger for De Montfort, Ed Atkins, calls for the mark. So we get a chance to take a drop kick, clear the lines here. He took it on the full, ironically enough. Normally when you call a mark, you take a drop kick, but he took quite a weak on the full kick there that's landed, that's only really gained themselves 7 metres in territory. So he'll be really disappointed with that in the end, because he could have caught the ball and took it into possession arguably, but instead he decided to call the mark literally just inside his own 22. Goes to the kick, it's high, weak, and it's only made 5 or 6 yards. But luckily, DMU has actually managed to grab that line out. Really, really good leap there by the number 4, Chris Gibbs. First time we've mentioned him tonight, but he's really been a silent soldier for this team, getting the work done in that ruck. And we'll set. As we're approaching the 15-minute mark in this second half, we'll start to see some subs. invariably in the modern way rugby's played, you start seeing subs this time of the game to freshen up the forward line. Great run there by number 19, Alistair Brace there for DMU, the first sub of the day for DMU. He broke one tackle, ran it towards the middle of the field, and now we're approaching the halfway line. It was a penalty there for DMU.
Taking it very quickly.
And was Jack Much 10 metres there? I wasn't so sure he was, but the ref's allowing play to go on. The number 7, Joe Midgley, has taken the ball into possession. Yet another silent but dead effective player here for DMU today, because they've been so brutal and so dominant in that forwards. They just haven't managed to make that forward dominant show, have they?
Yeah.
But sadly, DMU have now given away a scrum just inside the University of Leicester 10-metre line. Luckily, they've taken the ball up far up the pitch, so it's not as if they've lost the territory game there. In the space of 20 seconds, I've managed to take the ball 40-50 yards, which is pleasing, but when you're 7 points down, you want to keep a hold of it. As the University of Leicester have to put into the scrum here, the ref resets it as it starts to wheel round. He's having a word with the University of Leicester prop, so it must be de Montfort that are getting the best of things. And the number 1 for University of Leicester, James Longbond, starting to push our own Joe Woods.
You can start to see a lot of frustration in DMU. They're annoyed at themselves that they haven't made their possession pay, and so I think the key is now to keep your heads up. There's a tendency to let your spirits fall at this time, especially when things aren't going their way. So I feel like there'll have been in these sort of situations before. I mean, last year the game was already over by this point. But they're still very much in it. But they need to be, I feel like, a bit more sensible with how they're choosing to attack. But the opportunities are there, and now the key is to take them. They haven't so far, but there's still plenty of time left in this half.
And that's a penalty to DMU now. And that's a penalty to DMU now from the ensuing scrum. It was University of Leicester's put in, but getting the work done in the front row, and we're going for the posts. We've just 25 minutes left of the half. James Hall is going to take on a challenging kick here down towards the touchline on the right. It's a perfect distance for a kicker. He hasn't got much of an angle to work with either, so arguably these are the kinds of kicks that he's making in training very easily. And remember, you can get in touch with us on Twitter at DemonFM and at DemonSport, and get in touch with us on Facebook at facebook.com/DemonFM if you want to let us know where you are in the stadium, or where you are at home listening to this, whether you're a student, past or present, listening to the game. It's a really close game. If you remember just this time last year, as James Hall sadly comically slips over and falls, much to the delight of the University of Leicester fans, and Jack Much clears his lines, and now we have a line out on our own 10-metre line, failing at the chance of cutting the gap to 4 there. But if you remember this time last year, these two teams were squaring off, and the University of Leicester were heavily favourites going into it. Not so much the case this year. The two have already played once this year. University of Leicester coming out on top 22-20 and coming out on top in the league table by 8 points, which is just 2 wins. So it was a close fought battle in the table after 14-15 games. So it's really come on leaps and bounds for the men's programme here at de Montfort, and it's a really close game we've got ourselves tonight. Last year the score was 29-3, and we've only got a deficit of just 7 points here that could have been a lot closer, because James Hall's missed 3 very kickable attempts to cut the deficit as a crunching tackle goes in on the de Montfort backline player there, as the University of Leicester have got a tight defensive line there, as de Montfort try and force their way out of their own half with some, once again, great forward play, barreling over, using their strength, using their muscle that they've been working on, using their head, using their tactics that they've been working on for the past 8 months. All of the 8 months have been culminating for this one moment. This is just one game of many, some would say, but for these players, as they're warming up today, you could see on their faces that Varsity is what means the most to them. You could see from the afters that we saw in the first 5 minutes after every single possession that for these players, this is what it's all been about. This is what it's all been leading up to each year. The chance to play at Welford Road, the chance to grace a 24,000-seater stadium where the 10-time champions of England have played, the Leicester Tigers, who have reached the last 10 of either Premiership finals here in England, an ominous statistic that they look set to emulate again this season as they stand fourth in the league standings, as University of Leicester get a penalty now just inside the De Montfort half.
Yeah, I feel like they those last few phases of play, De Montfort just took far too long to get going. It's all very well and good playing it through the forwards, trying to make those little ounces of space as you can, but on the halfway line, it seems like the backs were waiting for it. You could see them, especially the wings out on the edge of the pitch. They were calling for it. They wanted it. They want a chance to start moving around, showing their pace and their aggression. But they're not given the opportunity to. And for spending too much time, cycling it through the forwards, they paid the price, and now they're back in their own half trying to defend the line out.
And that's a good line that you use. Actually, it's paying the price for your own. It's paying the price for your lack of.
I know. I feel like lack of. I know. Would you say it's
lack of aggression, lack of managing to get the job done?
Yeah.
We'd say lack
of ambition. I feel like is the best thing I can say.
Yeah, they haven't been clinical enough. They've got the ball into the University of Leicester half enough, but certainly this game has been in De Montfort's hands. They've had the chances to go up. The University of Leicester have only missed one kick throughout this entire game that was just worth 2 points. We've missed 3 kicks totaling 9 points. That's really the margin.
Yes.
It's the margins you look towards to the end of the game. But the fact that it means that it's just one guy's boot that's proved to be the difference why we're down by 7 points here just goes to show how well the forwards have done to get him in that position. Yeah,
it's absolutely been a close game, which is why it's all the more frustrating in a way to see them do so well, but fall at I wouldn't even say the last hurdle, because they're not getting that far up the pitch before they make just those little errors, like just lapses in judgment, and it's not what you want from them in that really threatening attacking position, I think.
Yeah, it's certainly been a case. It was certainly the case in the women's game as well. They had a couple of chances earlier on. The women went down 14-0 to the University of Leicester. Girls team.
Oh, it's a big maul here.
It is a big maul, big rolling maul down by the corner flag there for University of Leicester as they edge closer and closer to the De Montfort line. But it seems as if he's gone out of play, and it's going to be a line out there for one of the teams. I can't see which way he put his arm towards that. He's put it towards De Montfort, so De Montfort actually have a chance to get the ball clear now. And how many times have we said that tonight? De Montfort have got a chance to get the ball clear. They've got a chance to clear their lines. They've got a chance to relieve the pressure. It's them that need to be putting the pressure on, isn't it?
Yeah, they certainly don't want to be here. And if you need to relieve your pressure, you just need to just keep it out. Like it's all very well hooping upfield, but with some of the back line that we've seen for University of Leicester, they've got some very threatening backs. You can see their right wing and their fullback sitting deep. They're waiting for it, and if they receive the ball in an awkward position, they're just gonna unleash their pace. They're gonna absolutely barrel towards the GMU defence, and they'll be right back where it is. They'll be having to try and relieve the pressure all over again. It's the same cycle over and over again.
Yeah, I'd say that's certainly a huge factor tonight. The University of Leicester backline. I'd even say it's been their most attacking and easily the best part of their game. What do you think, Amit? Amit Nafani rejoining us. You're not missing anything on the pitch, by the way. There's currently a University of Leicester player down injured.
I know, I understand where your negativity comes from, but just remember there's still 20 minutes to go in this game. It can all turn around. There's still substitutions that can be brought on by the coaching staff on the benches, and they can turn it around. We've seen it in the past in football, and it happens in rugby as well. Those substitutions can make the world of difference as the Leicester are at DMU's line.
Yeah, De Montfort winning the line out there. I think you're right. I think maybe my mood was matching the crowd's some reproach towards that injury there. I was thinking a bit too negative. I think DMU definitely have played well enough to prove that they can get themselves back into this game from any position of this field, and they've got 18 minutes to do so, and it's solely on their shoulders to get it done.
Yeah.
And it's solely on the shoulders of guys like Joe Woods, who's had a great game, Joe Midgley. You'd even say that guys like Connor Warburton in the fullback positions had a really good game. He's rejoined. Yeah. He's joined the attack into the back line really well tonight. And it's just guys like that that can really step up over the next 18 minutes, because we haven't got one specific threat, because our forwards have been so dominant, but it hasn't proved to be the clinical part of the field. And we've never explored wing play enough tonight, I don't think. Maybe if we started doing that, it'd take University of Leicester off guard and we'd see what happens.
Yeah, and I just feel like they just need to think a bit more about what they're doing. The position they have here is very deep, but at this point in the game, I feel like you want to run from deep. You want to try and run it out. It's what the teams in the Southern Hemisphere do, and look how successful they are. They don't just want to kick it. They don't want to have to chase a bouncing ball. They want to really go after it. I think the reason that we might sound a bit critical is there have been spells of the game, particularly towards the end of the first period, where we saw how good DMU can be. We want to see more of that, and there have been glimpses of it, but we haven't seen an extended period of it.
Yeah, and let's just remember the gulf between these two teams may just be 7 points at the moment, but as I look down below us, down at the touchline, all the technical staff that the University of Leicester employ and the coaches they employ, it's a much wider system than we use, and the fact that we've got it to within a point where we can cause an upset here really is an achievement, as the University of Leicester barrel over there. And had they scored the try? I think they have. Unfortunately, a couple of forward movements there by the University of Leicester too easily broke down the Montfort defence. It's in a very similar position to where they scored their last try, and they've moved ahead now to within 2 tries, and it's surely going to be a steep and tough task for De Montfort to take on now, but they really need to get in a huddle now and really talk about what they need to do over the next 18 minutes, because they're currently down 18-6 to the University of Leicester with a kick to come, so it could potentially be 26.
Yeah, it just seemed like another lapse in concentration there. Didn't seem like there was a whole lot on. The momentum had slowed down, but the University of Leicester, credit to them, did well to set up that maul from a standing stop, and then they had the pure strength and the technique in their ability to drive that ground, and then that's all it took. And with the conversion they're waiting, it's quite a considerable gap now. DMU have to score twice, and in the second half, as I was saying before, we've seen glimpses of their ability, but they need to keep that going for more than just a few phases of play. We need to see extended form. At the moment they haven't found it, but maybe like this, I would like to think that this will be the wake-up call that they need to get back into the game.
Yeah, onwards and upwards for DMU then. We're down by 14 currently. It's currently 20 points to 6. James Hall getting ready to take the kick-off. One last rally. This is the last 15 minutes of their season. They'll be saying, come on boys, let's get the ball. Let's make sure we try and make some headway into their half, and immediately we regain the ball from the kick-off. Tim Gilbert driving forward. Joe Woods grabbing his hands on the ball. We've got advantage. It's going to be a penalty. Perfect time to kick the ball into touch, try and put some pressure on, try and get a line out on their 5-metre line and see where it goes.
Yeah, they know full well after there could have been mitigating circumstances as to why kicking from the tee hasn't been so good.
It's a great kick there from James Hall, who hasn't exactly had his kicking boots with him tonight, but they're clapping each other, they're getting in a huddle, they're telling each other this is it, we really need to start converting.
This is the right sort of ambition, this is what we wanted to see from them all along, and now we just have, they'll be looking for a good line out, they'll be looking for quick circulation, firstly through the forwards to set that platform, and then the backs see more of that explosive running, which they have in spades in this back line. You'll be surprised, they may be almost 22 metres out when they receive that ball, but they're going to be able to make up that ground very, very quickly.
And it's belief. It's all about belief. They know they can win this line out. They know they can recycle possession because they've been playing very well in the forwards today. Great take there. Come on, DMU. Number 8 grabbing it there and taking it to the 5-metre line. DMU have kept hold of possession, but the ref has blown up for a penalty.
Ooh.
Penalty for University of Leicester. Holding on there in the ruck by number 8, Ian Bukenya.
Yeah. It's another chance gone, and again it is frustrating because they did so well to get into that position, that they set it up all right. It looked like the training ground routine executed well, and getting into that position, right in the centre, only 5 metres out, but they they weren't quick enough to support him. I mean, holding on, it shouldn't be happening. They should be, his fellow forwards should be right behind him, ready to get their body on the line, recirculate, and then the next phase of play goes on.
And it wasn't the
Unfortunately,
greatest of kicks into touch there from the ensuing penalty by the University of Leicester. They've got themselves in between the 10-metre line and their 22-metre line. And you'd have to argue right now that if De Montfort don't win this line out, then it's going to be a really, really tough task.
Yeah, certainly.
And here comes the put-in. And the University of Leicester win it, and they've secured possession. And they've got a driving maul going towards their own 10-metre line, and they've broke free in possession. They're breaking down tackles into the De Montfort half. Once again, breaking tackle after tackle. Great play there by the University of Leicester, who are finding themselves with a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum from this crowd. They know that they're starting to dominate territory, dominate possession, dominate the ball handling here, and they're trying to take advantage of that and really try and put this game beyond doubt as they currently spin the ball out. And a wonderfully weighted pass there by Jack Much, which luckily fell to their number 12, who fell over, but it was a really great pass that could have been exploited a lot more there as they find space down this flank, as they find space down this blind side that ends up in touch, and luckily a line out now is now called for DMU.
Yeah, from DMU's perspective, they'll be happy that the player who took that really long miss pass didn't quite find his footing, because he had so much space down that left wing. If he'd been able to stay on his feet, he could have broken, and he had another man on his outside. It was a really dangerous looking attacking play from the University of Leicester. It's another defensive job for De Montfort to do. Let's hope that they can hold it out, clear their lines in a progressive way this time. That's what they'll be looking for.
Yeah, and the University of Leicester managed to win that line out, but then they knocked the ball on, so now it's going to be a scrum down for the De Montfort University, just outside their own 22. And echoing words that were spoke numerous times tonight, a chance to get themselves out of their own half, a chance to kick on. They really need to start spinning this ball down the back line. Whether they don't have faith in their own back line, I'm not sure, but I don't remember the last time a back line ended with the ball being spun down to the winger.
But while they're here on the defence, they're not doing what they want to be doing, which is getting these 14 points. That's 2 converted tries, and you're certainly not going to be getting anywhere close to doing that when you're down here just in front of your 22 performing a scrum. It's not what they're looking for. They need to steal the ball from this, and they need to get going quickly, because the time is ticking. It really is. It
really is ticking down, and we currently have just about 10 minutes left of this game to play.
Well, it looks like the scrum's reset again. I feel like that's been the tale of both games that we've seen this evening. A lot of scrums not quite going to form. I feel like that scrums in general. You see it at the professional level as well. It's a shame, really, because I feel like there's a lot of strategies and small nuanced tactics that can be gained from the scrum. It'd be nice to see a few more as we approach the final stages of this game.
Yeah, DMU have got the put into this scrum, so Ben Wansley's getting ready to take it in, but every time he does, it seems as if the ref wants to pull it back up. It's not good. It's not good for the clock here. This is just winding down seconds that DMU do not have to waste.
I'll prefer it if the referee were to try and really identify what's causing the problem in the scrum here and give the penalty.
Yeah, we're currently 70 minutes into this rugby match, and the ref has not identified why this scrum keeps failing. But at the end of the day, it's down to the players to get the scrum going. We can't sit here and blame the ref for the fact that 2 sets of 8 players can't get the ball out the scrum on a regular basis, but luckily this time it did. In the ensuing breakdown, De Montfort have got the ball out the ruck. Number 8, Ian Bukenya, just takes the ball out there, sets it down. He doesn't hold on to it this time like he did on the 5-metre line, and DMU have got a penalty that surely they're going to go and, as quickly as they can, kick into touch and try and gain some yards here. They're just outside their own 22-metre line in the middle of the pitch, so it's going to be hard to get a lot of distance.
Oh, they've been pushed back 10 metres, it seems.
Oh, from there. The University of Leicester pack have been pushed back 10 metres, so it gives us a bit more field position. It gives us a chance for this quick kick. It's a terrible kick by James Hall there, who kicks it and it doesn't even go out. and now it's going to be University of Leicester ball on their own 10-metre line. As you can hear, the crowd around us are quite subdued. The play itself felt a bit subdued the past 5-10 minutes. Crowd's starting to filter out now. They know that their team's done their job and they've probably won this year's varsity game, but one last rally, one last go at it by this De Montfort men's team could just create a last flurry, a final flurry. They have it in them. We know they do. Maybe they're starting to get a bit leggy in that forwards pack, but
yeah. But in the backs, we've just seen, as you were speaking, two replacements coming on to try and refresh it.
Well, there we are then. 2 replacements. That's going to be key. We need to get the ball to fresh legs, because so far it looks as if the forwards are starting to run out of puff a bit. They're guys like Joe Woods are so instrumental in the first hour of this game for DMU, carrying this team on his shoulders, carrying that front row on his shoulders as he takes the ball into the University of Leicester 22. He's just starting to run out of steam a bit, and you can't ask a guy of his size to just keep running for 80 minutes. I mean, front rows may be designed to do that, but this isn't a professional game. And what was a DMU ruck has now ended up as University of Leicester ball that they've immediately kicked right back to number 15, Connor Warburton, who loops it into the air, but it's won by the University of Leicester team, who have now regained possession just inside their own half, looking to spin the ball out. The ball's just slowly petering out of the ruck. A fake there by Jack Much, who's really played very well since coming back on from his sin bin from right on the stroke of the end of the first half. He must have felt that he had a point to prove, only having 30 minutes of play here.
Now that might be tackle of the day right there.
Yeah, just to describe it to you there, number 14, Adam Woolley, was running down the right-hand side there for University of Leicester at a really high speed. And the De Montfort,
flying.
He was going easily. He's the quickest player on the pitch, and he was running as fast as he could. And the University of Leicester man just got flipped over through no fault of the DMU player. It was a legal tackle, but he just took him out knee height to the point where it created such a force of momentum that he flipped around, and it looked really bad, but I think he landed cleanly on his back. And a sloppy bit of possession was to ensue from there, and now De Montfort got the scrum against them just outside their own 22. And as we get the thoughts for a final time during this game of our esteemed colleague Amit Nafani.
I'm honoured to be called esteemed. I think Leicester have just taken the sting out of this game.
They have
briefly.
Wouldn't you say that the crowd's kind of mirroring the game now, and it's hard. We're here with a very heavy DMU bias as the DMU radio station, but it's getting harder and harder now to stay positive about the thoughts of this match ending up as a win.
Well, I think Leicester, before that period of play just there, took the sting out of the game, and it's kind of slowed down. DMU are just not running out of ideas, but they're looking a bit head-fallen, crestfallen, and they just need to pick up their heads. And they've got less than 10 minutes to go in this game. They've got to battle it out, and they've got to score 2 tries in under 10 minutes. It's doable, but it's going to be very hard, and they need to get their mitts on the ball very, very quickly.
There we are, though. Amit's laid down the gauntlet for them. 2 tries, 10 minutes. They need to get it done, and that's what they need to do to save this game. If they don't do it, and back it up with a fine kicking display, because James Hall's been a bit off tonight with the boot. If they don't back it up with 2 tries, both converted, this game's beyond them. If anything, they're also fighting for a lot of pride now, because we know that they've put up a great performance tonight. The scoreline may say 20-6, but the performance certainly hasn't indicated so. But if you're not going to take your chances, you're not going to get the points on the board.
No, absolutely not. And I feel like that's been the difference between the two teams. Both with great desire, great ambition to get forward. They're clearly two very well drilled teams. The difference being that when University of Leicester have broken, they've had men in support. They've been able to come up with good improvisation, particularly some really deft backhand passes that we always enjoy seeing. Whereas by contrast, De Montfort University, it's not quite been all there. Again, there've been moments real flashes of brilliance that have really shown their quality and shown why they've had overall a very good season. But they just, when the chances are falling to them, they haven't been able to take them. That's been the difference between these two teams.
And University of Leicester certainly have taken their chances, and they'll be looking to do it once more before the end of the game as they start to advance towards the halfway line. They've got a bit of recovery work to do. De Montfort managed to gain some territory there, but Jack Much, who's played very well tactically, plays a really poor kick there that winds up in the hands of Ben Monsley on halfway. So DMU have got the chance to build a possession up here from the halfway line. We can't tell you exactly how much time's left because all we've got in front of us is the time. The scoreboard in front of us doesn't have a clock, so literally at any point over the next 5 minutes the whistle could go. So we really need to keep our eye on the ref, and there really needs to be a sense of urgency in this DMU team. And it seems as if there is as they advance towards the 10-metre line, barrelling forwards with the foot, barrelling forward through the forwards.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, they're not at least they're not going back with the backs. That's some positive play there. And one thing they've managed to do very well tonight is secure the ruck. They've done that very well. They've managed to keep possession tidy, keep it very well, and the ref's called a knock on there by the University of Leicester, and it's going to be a scrum down to De Montfort on the 10-metre line. And once again, I'm going to say it again, what's been with the lack of faith in the back line tonight?
I know it does seem like there's been a reluctance in a way to get it out there, and you can tell that they're frustrated because they want to do it. I mean, for one thing, it must be very cold down there. The only way to warm up is to get running. And the only way they're going to do that is if the forwards are willing to let loose. It's fine playing a few phases if you want to make that little bit of ground, but you've got to get it out to them eventually, because when they have done, they've been able to gain a lot of ground. So I feel like they need to be aware of the tools that they have at their disposal.
And University of Leicester again, it may not have been their putting at the scrum, but they dominated and now they're on top. They're running the ball into the De Montfort half, onto the 10-metre line. Neat little offload there as he takes the tackle and falls down to the ground, spinning it out. Spilled in possession, but it looked as if it went backwards. The ref is saying play on, but DMU regained possession through Joe Woods, who takes it into the tackle on his own 10-metre line. The ruck's formed as they look to spin it out. Ian Buckenya looking to take the ball into possession, but he joins the ruck instead. Bit of afters there by both teams as Ben Monsley takes it, advances it past the 10-metre line. They really need to start spinning this ball out and making some significant yards as we approach the final moments of this game. Crowd subdued now. Surely the cheers are coming, sadly, from University of Leicester as this Varsity 2014 winds to a close. Ben Monsley loses possession there, but he manages to pounce on it and is immediately on the back foot. University of Leicester trying to regain possession, but it looks once again as if DMU have managed to play it very well there in the ruck, and they have done, because the University of Leicester line has been caught offside. They've been pinged for yet another offence to do with their rucking, and DMU have chosen to tap and go from the penalty through Joe Halls, who takes it into the ruck, barrelling forward over the halfway line. Slowing down the possession now. They're looking to just make some quiet build-up, concerted play there. Jamie O'Sullivan barrelling forward there. Keep saying barrelling, charging forward there, taking some significant yards, getting into his opponent's half. Ben Monsley has really been all over the pitch today.
One of the standout players, absolutely.
He's been one of the standout players, but I'd say for all the wrong reasons, because he hasn't been spinning it out to his back line enough, I'd say. But he's on the floor now, recovering from a tackle as De Montfort actually start making some headway down towards us on the line. They've got the ball, the ruck's forming. The University of Leicester man's managed to win it, however. I'm not sure how he managed to do that, but that's quite disappointing as De Montfort try and regain possession straight away. But the University of Leicester player just kicks the ball straight out into touch, and that's the final whistle. As you can hear from the crowd around us and the chairs being slammed around me in support. Sadly, we must end Varsity 2014 on a sad note in that the University of Leicester first men's team has won Varsity Rugby 20 points to 6, following on from the women's result earlier of 14-0. And spoils have been claimed once again, just like the double-header they managed to claim last year. Spoils have been claimed, and the champagne and beers being thrown onto the pitch, and It really was a valiant effort by our guys, and I'll hand you back over to Amit Nafwani. It's been me, Lewis Hanson, on commentating alongside Tom Molina. Thanks for listening to us tonight as I hand you over to Amit.
Don't go anywhere soon, guys. I'm going to keep asking you loads of questions until we finish things off here at Welford Road, as there are handshakes all round here at Welford Road.